Call Personnel Committee meeting to order November 6th at 5:26 PM. Item number 2 of the agenda is roll call. Myself, Russ Ewart, here. Tracy Pollock. Here. Kim Higginbotham.
Here.
Item 3, agenda revisions and approval.
Make a motion to approve the agenda revisions and approval.
Second. Ms. Higginbotham with the motion, Mr. Pollock with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Item 4, approval of minutes, October 9th, 2023 meeting minutes.
Move to approve the minutes of the October 9th, 2023 meeting.
A second.
Mr. Pollock with the motion, Ms. Higginbotham with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Item number 5, reports and updates. We're gonna have Mr. Nowak with us. Item 5A, teacher resignations.
Thank you. Since we were last together, we had one teacher resignation. Jenny Stavis is a speech and language pathologist, submitted her letter of resignation on Tuesday, October 31st, 2023. She was hired in August of 2021 in the Germantown School District. We will bring this forward to the board, obviously seeking liquidated damages. That's all I have this time.
Do we have a reason?
Yeah, I have not met with her, but I met with her prior, dating back to the end of last school year. So there was some concerns relative to compensation. There is a proximity consideration in that the district that she's going to is her hometown. So we will follow up with her again, though, prior to the board meeting, but I have a pretty good grasp of what's at play.
Workload claim too?
Possibly, but I think compensation was a bigger part.
So what's the difference? Our compensation versus where she's going?
I don't know that. I know she had concerns about her compensation here. I think that's as much as I'll give you right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you can give us more later. 'Cause
Well, we don't always
can't-
know. We don't always know what someone signed on for. We know.
They're gonna approve it at a public meeting at some point, right?
Right. We
So we'll know.
in general know what that particular district has been doing. My guess is that
Yeah, but we'll
there's
know
definitely
what they're doing. 'Cause they're
Correct.
gonna approve the contract at some point, I would assume, similar to how we put ours into an open meeting.
Right.
So we should have the data at that point. Was there an attempt made in regards to that, the compensation side?
There was not. The letter was submitted, and it was pretty clear that she was leaving us. We can, but I'm pretty confident the decision is.
Filling this position.
The position is posted. We will seek applicants. Our hope at this point in the year is that there could be semester 2 or semester 1 graduates that could be in play. Likewise, this is a time when we can sometimes get retired speech and language paths to fill a vacancy.
So we're looking for either somebody that's retired to temporary fill it or a new graduate.
We're looking at whatever applicants put in, honestly.
Yeah, I guess I just,
It's a position that's not easy to fill.
mhm.
And it's one that we, we'll look at anyone who puts in for it relative to what their qualifications are. And sometimes in these positions, you look to agencies to fill gaps and things like that. but it is one of those positions that's not easy.
Yeah, and we're not here to make a decision on it. It's my personal opinion is it's, when we're told it's a difficult position to fill, but there wasn't an attempt to figure out what the financial.
There still can be.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
I don't, that's concerning. I don't know if there's other issues or anything that may or may not be going on around it, but I think that's part of why we have this report, right?
Right.
And we see how fast some of this stuff changes, because even from the last time you reported to us and our full board meeting, there was other movement that occurred.
Right.
Concerning, to say the least. I don't want the district to continue to go down the path of we'll find a new grad. I know that's often what happens, but I think our first attempt should be experienced personnel as best as possible, and then blend that in with new youthful enthusiasm. Outside of that, I don't have a solution for you at that time, but it's interesting that we don't know exactly what she's getting paid, but we're citing that. I'm assuming she said
No,
compensation.
I can tell you with certainty that she had concerns about compensation dating back to last year.
Yeah.
Do we have anything comparing the different districts with this position as far as where we at? I mean, I know we're doing the teachers, but this is a specific,
This is a certified teaching position.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
we currently now have 10 speech paths, I believe, in the district. We had 11. So we'll redistribute caseloads for the time being. That is a high FTE for the size of our district.
Meaning we're overstaffed or
Not that
potentially
we're
overstaffed?
overstaffed, I think that
Or we
our
have a-
caseloads are,
We have a high caseload
no, we have
given.
a high FTE given the number of total students that receive services, but services range from birth to 3 services all the way through 12th grade. So we utilize our speech paths across the district, and sometimes they serve in multiple buildings.
So how much work are we redistributing? While we're, do we know?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I can say that I was made aware of this. I asked what district this employee was going to, and they are currently compensating very high. We, as well as many in CC1, have lost to this teachers to this district.
So they're actively,
Correct. They're outbid. This was a topic of concern in CC1 about the outbidding.
for this particular district?
Yeah.
Do we have any idea how many, as far as like people graduating with a speech pathology degree, are there many interested in it? Is it just, there's just not a lot of teachers that, to pick from? Is it?
It's a field, it's not the hardest to fill, but it is definitely a hard to fill position, meaning there aren't as many graduates coming out, there aren't as many qualified applicants.
All special education, this would fall under special education services. All positions are very difficult to fill right now across the country when it comes to people, whether it's a speech path, a therapist, OT, PT therapist, a case manager, school psychologist. Any of those positions in the realm of pupil service are hard to fill, which they're demanding higher paid market value across the country.
And I'm just throwing this out there, I don't know, but as far as, is it possible to get like college students that are going to school for this to bring them in as far as like a program?
Internships.
Right, would that be a possibility?
Sometimes it is. That happens more lately with special education, but you would get what's called emergency certification. Sometimes it's through CSAs. I don't see it as much with speech and language, but
Would that be an option as far as a temporary,
It-
I don't know what you'd have to go through to do that, but if somebody has the case themselves and they just are kind of overseeing somebody else, I don't know what that looks like or if it's a possibility, but if we, are having an issue finding somebody, applicants, at least then we're moving towards getting somebody in
Yeah.
here. And I know they won't have experience, but at least you're,
That does happen, like I said, with special ed. It's also happened with school psychs. It's
Mhm.
a logical thing. I don't know enough about the training for speech paths, but, you know, there's clinicals that they go through and things like that, so it's something we can look at.
Tracy? Okay. 5B, teaching, or teacher contract.
We have a limited term contract that we'll bring forward for Carrie Kepke. This is for an FMLA leave at MacArthur, second grade. This is a limited term contract, 59 days for $13,275.
Previous experience?
Yes. This is an experienced teacher that we feel really good about coming in. It's a leave of this variety happens frequently, and I believe it may have already started. If you can connect the dots as to why the leave occurred. But Mr. Gonzalez is very excited about the candidate and the teacher, and we're excited to bring her forward.
She worked in the district before?
No,
Well, good. Sounds like we got someone with some experience. Look at that go. No actions needed on it. Any discussion? Anyone else? Okay, sounds good. I think the rest will get taken care of in the staffing update. Probably our vacancies in that, right?
yeah.
Okay. We'll move on to 5C, staffing update.
So our staffing update, as we've said, is sort of a snapshot of where we are right now. Since the last staffing update, noted in the document, there are more teacher vacancies because we put the building sub positions in there. Since the last time we were together, we have those noted in WeCan. We typically don't do that because this is a teachers on call hire. But what we did is we framed it as a vacancy, and if interested, apply through teachers on call. So we were close to having a candidate for the high school, but it didn't work out. So we're hopeful that we have some people that are interested. I'm still a little surprised at the lack of interest in the role, but we'll keep working. The speech path is noted. The ELL teacher that we've talked about in the past is noted, and then also the interpreter position. So those three are the positions beyond the building sub positions. And then there are 4 support staff positions, 2 buildings and grounds positions, a health room aide, and a special ed aide.
There's active interviews this week. Wednesday's Callan Health team, we have a great yellow position filled, and we continue to work with outside services with that interpreter position as well.
So it's being filled
Yep, it's
via
second-
that,
second
just not
assistant
our
person.
employee, right?
Correct.
Building subs, you said for the high school you were close to one and it fell through. Was it, do we know why?
Yeah, I don't know the exact details. It was somebody who initially was from out of state, and I think that it didn't have anything to do, for example, with pay or those kinds of things. It was more about interest in doing it.
So we have the information on weekend. What's Teachers on Call doing to try to promote this and get these positions filled?
Well, they're the starting point, so they're supposed to be recruiting for us, saying, hey, we have a candidate that might be a fit and those kinds of things, and that has not brought us much. It really hasn't. So the buildings have kind of, as people have subbed, they've, entertained with folks, hey, would you be interested, those kinds of things. There's just not significant interest. And I don't know if, and I think our pay is in line with others. In fact, I know it is. And we could raise it some, but I don't know that that's gonna make a significant difference.
Other schools in the district have this as a position,
In the area, you mean?
the building sub?
Yeah, other schools in the area.
In the area,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Hmm.
And are they having the same issue with finding?
I don't know that. I do know that their pay is a little higher in general. We're at that, I think it was 165 range, 160, I can't remember which, but they're in the 175 range, so,
Talking about per day.
yeah.
Maintenance and grounds. You have two here. How many are listed on weekend?
Two,
There are two listed on.
is it,
I believe currently there's one listed on weekend, and then when, I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. I believe there's one listed on weekend, I believe, there may be two, but there was one, and then when we interviewed them, we placed them in the building that we thought would be appropriate for how they answered the interview questions. So the positions are similar. They're both maintenance positions. One just helps out with the grounds during the busy sporting seasons. So as we interview, if the interview questions come back with, they have some grounds
So we have
experience.
one listing, two openings?
I believe that is
One
true.
listing, one opening, and then you decide which
I
open.
believe we have one listing, two openings, unless a new listing has been posted recently, but I believe we have one listing, two positions,
Not three.
Not three.
not three.
Okay.
It was an error estimate.
I'm assuming from the different style of posting?
Correct.
Okay. Some of these harder to fill positions, I mean, where do we go from here? If we're not filling at our desired rate or compensation, I mean, what are our options?
Well, we don't list the compensation on a posting for a teaching position, because that's negotiated based on experience and the market value. So if we don't have any applicants.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
So we're just not having applicants at all.
Correct, or applicants that are applying do not meet the qualifications or the expectations.
Use the example of the social worker position. We were
Yeah.
obviously very concerned about filling that, and today we had our social worker in for our first go of it, so first day. So sometimes it takes time. Sometimes it involves speaking with other districts around available applicants, people we know that might be interested. The positions that are here, unfortunately, are just tough. The interpreter position in particular is a really difficult find these days.
Yeah. Oh, I think the key, right, we're not willing to settle on a standard or, right, a skill set that we're looking for. So then how do we attract that particular standard or skill set we are looking for?
I think some of it is networking. I know that specifically in these pupil service positions, whether it's our current staff, or Mrs. Callan, reaching out to people they know in other districts or in the private sector that could also provide services in the public sector with an emergency license or have a license, they just have worked in the private. I believe that's how we came across our social worker, correct, Mr. Noy? She was working in the private sector.
Right.
There were connections with some of our current staff and reaching out and then saying, hey, apply here, it's a good place to work. And it led to, though that resignation by our previous social worker was in late August, early September. We did fill it, and Ms. Hennekins started today. She was here at district office picking up her materials and starting the week. So it did, yes, it took 2 months, but we're satisfied that we've hired a quality person with a
Yeah.
background versus settling for someone that might not provide the services and actually drain more district resource if they aren't at par of what we expect.
Yeah, I think that's the key, right?
Yeah.
I guess going back to, in regards to some of these opening positions, it's concerning, when we have like that teacher resignation, that we knew a year out that compensation was potentially a sore spot. Right?
Without going into the detail of the conversation, I can say the compensation at hand was in line with our district practices, and I feel confident.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we're having this compensation study, I guess is what I'm getting at. But those are data points. Because now we're in a position where we have a harder position to fill. It sounds like there might be some other things that were going on there that you're not overwhelmingly willing to share right now. And that's fine, because it's a specific person we're talking about.
Right.
We're not gonna get into that in an open meeting.
Right.
But I think that's why we're having this compensation study. A reason, not the totality of the reasons, but
Yeah.
to ensure we're in the right range, so we're not handcuffing ourselves when we're looking for a high achieving candidate, but we can't attract them because maybe the compensation isn't right.
Yeah, and I would just add to that anytime we bring candidates in, regardless of what the position is, we do have to be mindful of our current employees and where they're compensated, so as to not create significant inequities.
Mhm.
So that is always a consideration at hand.
There's a lot of things that go into it, right?
Yeah.
Any other questions on the staffing as we are?
And we can speak more to this when it's presented at the board meeting if necessary.
In general, is it just typically harder to hire in the middle of a year because kind of people are where they want to be instead of like in the summertime when kind of the years end and they're looking for something new versus leaving somewhere?
I would just say they're on the fly here. I would say there are 3 waves that occur. There's a wave that occurs at the beginning of summer or right at the end of the school year when people don't re-sign their contracts. There's that late push in, say, August when districts sort of frantically recruit and things kind of happen. And then there's these kinds of situations mid-year where it's not as many, but sometimes there are just peculiar situations, which sometimes it might be a classroom teacher who's leaving for some reason. Sometimes it's a little more significant, relative to the difficulty of the spot to fill.
How long has the grounds and maintenance one been open? Again, that's been a while.
I wanted to clarify that a little bit. So we have hired multiple people and they leave. And they leave without notice, they leave without reason, they just leave. So we have hired 3 people in the time, so I don't wanna say that it has been open for a while. But we have hired 3 people within that time, in which all 3 of them, I was getting a little worried, really just left. So I don't know if they found something else. One of them, I believe, told us they went to a different district and they got a promoted job. It wasn't the same type of job. We did put it on Indeed, so it's also on there. And then I've been talking to other districts because we're not the only one with the maintenance. I didn't get into the grounds part, but the custodial and maintenance positions that are open. Some of them are trying temp agencies, so they'll have the person for a little while. It costs a little more upfront just to see if it's a good fit for their district, and then they've hired a couple out of there. Some of them obviously aren't good fits, but we might go that direction. But I will talk to Mr. Lord when he comes back from vacation tomorrow.
Chris, you mentioned that particular school district is offering above and beyond anything in the market?
I think we can see some trends from certain districts that have had high turnover in the CESO one region in the last 3 to 4 years, and they've changed their compensation model, and provided high increases, but also are seeing budgetary deficits long term
Yeah,
when it comes to
they-
that. So they're filling, but what's the
They're
long
paying for it,
term?
they're paying for it in the back end
Correct.
in regards to.
Right.
what
They'll
they're
be
doing.
scaling back in years to come or increasing class size. That's astronomical.
Are they
To-
overcompensating due to workload? The,
They just have, like we do, like every school district does, it's not uncommon to not be 100% staffed in today's day and age because there's less people going into public education workforce in all positions.
To-
I mean, you could go to WeCan administratively and find principal jobs right now, assistant principal jobs, director of finance positions are open. Not that I'm searching, but you get an alert every day
To-
of jobs across the state, whether
you can turn that push notification off.
yeah,
that'd be
whether
great.
it be certified teaching staff positions, and you kind of can see what's happening across the state, and it's some of the very same predictable positions, like Ms. Altendorf said, in her line of work when it comes to custodial maintenance people and hearing from other business officials, the same can be said both at the administrative level and teaching level.
So you'd say it's not a unique situation that we're in?
No,
No.
I don't, but I wouldn't use that as a crutch. I would say that our goal is to fill these positions. And that's why we're, again, engaged in this compensation study, so that we can offer fair market to new employees, but also fill the gaps with our existing employees that may be under market.
I just want to reiterate something that Dr. Reuter said. The districts that are offering higher wages now are districts that have been on the extreme side of turnover. They've had the most turnover in our area, maybe with the exception of the biggest district being MPS. And
That's a different, that's a
Yeah,
whole different
exactly.
thing.
Which is not comparable.
Yeah,
Any
right,
way you
yeah.
use it.
No, I just think in this day and age, we hear there's some turnover going on, and then people tend to extrapolate that into this narrative of a mass exodus, or whatever you'd like to call it. And I don't see that from the data that's being shared with us. It doesn't seem to be the case. I don't feel like we're a unique district from that standpoint. We have some turnover, we have some tough positions to fill. I think we're working on doing those things. Like I said, we're not gonna compromise on the skill set we want to bring in, but we balance the financial future of the district too. Or could we go offer some amazing contract? Sure. Would it get us a candidate instantaneously? Possibly. But will it handicap us going into the future financially?
Right.
For the totality of our staff? Absolutely. And I think you brought up a good point too. We have current staff that are compensated at a level, and the compensation study is probably going to affect them in some form or fashion at some point. But we can't just offer a new candidate something so far and drastic beyond and then expect a non-copacetic work environment, right?
Right.
So there's a lot of things at play. I would extremely discourage the thought that there's some sort of mass exodus from our building and our district. I don't see it. I think the people we're seeing are leaving for a reason. Not always financially, sometimes financially. Some leaving the profession altogether. And in those situations, I don't know if there's much you do about that. If their heart's not in the educational industry anymore, I don't know how you retain that, or how you would necessarily want to retain that, somebody in a position they don't want to affect our children going forward. So that's part why we're having this, why you come every month now, and we have this committee meeting every month. And we can see this turnover, positions pop up, hires come in and out faster than we can have a full board meeting, so this is a way for us to keep that pulse. So I appreciate that. Now, if nobody else has anything. Yep.
You mentioned that with a lot of these positions, we're not posting necessarily a salary of what
Right.
would be assigned to it because it's based on experience,
Mhm.
things like that. the building subs are not in that category. We've stated what the price is, and these are still open for a couple months. Do we need to consider a higher price point if we're not getting candidates to fill all of these?
Yeah, my immediate response to that is it's different because it's not a teacher position that you're hiring for. It's a sub. Some of that would be through TOC in terms of their marketing of it. We could. I don't. am considering where we are right now. It's not, an absolute must that we fill those positions. We've operated without building subs forever. It just offers our buildings a little, it offers them some security for how we operate on a day-to-day basis, which is what our principals had inquired about, asked about, and it's what we've put forward. So we felt like that amount was fair that we pitched it at. If it means increasing it, I think we could talk about it and the ramifications of that.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that we absolutely should increase it. I'm just asking if that's something that should be considered if these continue to go unfilled.
I think what might help beyond just the day-to-day pay is maybe it's some time off, like personal days woven in, just be, in terms of that's what I think some of these candidates are interested in.
So they're-
I'm not prepared to talk about that, but you know what I mean by that. There's more.
Incentive.
Yeah, there's more to it than just the dollar amount is my quick thought.
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah, it didn't seem like we were too far off from what, if we were at 165 and the
TOC
average is 175.
Right,
What are we doing, 190, right, 190 days, so we're talking $1,900.
right.
Just- But there's other solution problems, right, to that. So we'll keep those options open and keep creatively problem solving this, so. Anything else?
Without those positions filled, you said we've gone without them for a while. Is it making taxing the existing maintenance and grounds crew, like,
I think
they
when
overwhelmed with-
anytime you have a position that you're
Mhm.
dependent on, or whether it's grounds crew, maintenance, speech path, interpreter, it taxes someone.
so so we do need to, it's not like it's okay that we don't have them. It's not, because we're just putting more work onto another couple
Just-
employees. You burn them out, and then we're gonna be 3 down instead of 2.
Just like settling for someone that's not up to expectation can
Right.
tax everyone
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Anything else?
Have we in the past ever used a temp agency? That's never, that we know of, it's never been a,
Just that our evening, the third party.
Oh, yeah, they're an outsourced company.
mhm,
They're not a temp agency, but,
sure,
I don't know if they hire their employees through a temp agency, I don't know that,
Right.
but
gotcha.
I don't believe they do. It was just another option that we're gonna consider, I'm not saying that we've moved that
Oh, and I don't
direction.
think it's a bad idea, at least in an interim, to be able to just get do some more of the simple, basic tasks that can maybe alleviate some of the pressure on somebody else.
Yes, last week I had 2 other districts call me and say, hey, we're having problems, are you having problems? And I'm like, yes, we are.
Yeah,
So, we talked on the phone about just different options that we could go through.
sure.
Okay.
At what point do you think that we get to where we start really having to consider something else, another couple months? Because they have been open for quite a while. And we're in in the school year, we're gonna be coming up
Yeah.
to snow removal and,
Right. As Brittany said, some of those, they have been filled, but it's just keeping someone in the role that's more the challenge.
And I don't believe it's the pay. The pay compared to other districts in a document that we share with other districts, we're where we're supposed to be.
right.
We're even higher in some areas than
Sure.
we're supposed to be.
Well, it's just
For
the
a
cost
building,
of
yeah.
bringing new people in all the time, because you're taking the time to train them in
Mhm.
something else, and then it's a repetitive cycle that gets expensive.
Right.
Anybody else? Item 6, unfinished business, we have none. 7, new business, we have none. Item 8,
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Higginbotham with the motion to adjourn. Mr. Pollock with the second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 6:01 PM.